Good morning. I'm attorney Gloria Allred, and this is my law partner, John West. And we were here in court this morning because Mr. Cosby's attorneys asked the court to essentially postpone the second deposition of Mr. Cosby, which the previous court order indicated should take place before April 8th. And because Mr. Cosby's attorneys were seeking a date for a hearing to stay the entire case. The court, we had previously taken Mr. Cosby's deposition in October 2015 in our lawsuit of Judy Huth versus Mr. Cosby. We had filed a motion to compel a second deposition over Mr. Cosby's objection. The court did order a second deposition of Mr. Cosby. It was previously ordered for February 29th. Mr. Cosby's attorneys then sought a postponement of that to an indefinite date. Then, in fact, the court denied their ex parte application previously and simply put Mr. Cosby's deposition over and ordered that it had to take place somewhere between March 8th and April 8th. And then Mr. Cosby's attorneys came into court this morning for a further delay. This is what happened this morning. Mr. Cosby's second deposition in Huth versus Cosby remains on the previously court-ordered schedule for April 7th, 2016. As I had just indicated, the court has previously ordered the deposition to take place before April 8th, and both sides agreed on April 7th. But Mr. Cosby's attorneys are seeking to stay our entire case from moving forward for what appears to be an indefinite period of time. So that motion to stay our entire case will be heard on March 30th, 2016, and we agreed on that March 30th date. If the court grants Mr. Cosby's motion to stay on March 30th, then the April 7th deposition of Mr. Cosby will not go forward. If, on the other hand, the motion to stay is denied, then the deposition of Mr. Cosby will go forward on April 7th in accordance with the previously ordered schedule. So that's where we are.
This has got to be frustrating, all the delays and so on and so forth.
Well, I'm not surprised that Mr. Cosby wishes to delay his second deposition and does not want to have to testify under oath in that second deposition. But one day he is going to have to face a jury, and he is going to have to face his accuser in a court of law.
Do you anticipate the arguments will be on that motion to stay, given what you know from the Cosby attorneys so far? What do you believe their argument will be, and how will you rebut that argument?
Well, we would prefer to wait for the motion to stay date and allow his attorneys to explain to the court why they think the entire case should be stopped, stayed from moving forward, and then we will be filing our opposition, and we'll speak to that on March 30th. We are not the only case he's trying to stop from moving forward. He was unsuccessful in his habeas corpus motion in the criminal case in Montgomery County, where he attempted to have that dismissed. The court denied his habeas corpus motion. He appealed from that. That's denied. So the preliminary hearing is moving forward on March 8th. At least as of today it is, in Montgomery County in the criminal case. And I understand, there may be another civil case as well where he is seeking to stay another case.
Where's the April 7th deposition going to take place?
Well,
If it does.
I had indicated that the previous deposition took place in Boston. I don't have any comment on where that will take place, the second deposition, but, you know, the papers that were filed today are open to the public and may have information that would answer further questions about Mr. Cosby's deposition.
You can say on just why that deposition is so important.
We felt that it was important to file our motion to compel a second deposition of Mr. Cosby. Ordinarily, under California law, a deposition is a one-day deposition. There's not a second day. But we felt that we had grounds to file it. I am not permitted to state what our grounds were because that motion had to be filed under seal with the court, and there are protective orders that are in existence. So I'm limited by that. Having said that, the court definitely reviewed our motion to compel and heard Mr. Cosby's vigorous objections through his attorneys to being compelled to appear for a second deposition, and the court agreed with us that he is required to appear, that we had grounds sufficient for the court to order him to appear for a second deposition. That's where we are. And of course we agree with the court, and we have been working to obtain dates within the court order for that second deposition. We have an agreed upon date, but he obviously does not wish to appear for reasons that his counsel have stated in their moving papers this morning. He doesn't wish to appear for a second deposition until his motion to stay the entire case is decided. In other words, to a date indefinite in time. I mean, the court essentially raised that question this morning in open court. Like, well, are you trying to continue his date until when? The date of his deposition. I mean, after the criminal case is decided, then what date? I think the court was essentially just being rhetorical in the questions posed. But I think the court recognizes they're looking for an indefinite stay of the second deposition. So right now, we're still on calendar for April 7th. We're very happy about that. And we'll see what the court decides on this motion to stay the entire case. This is an unusual situation. The criminal case that is pending is not a criminal case in which our client is alleged to be the victim. There is a different alleged victim in that case. That's Andrea Constant.
You made that point during the proceeding. Can you talk about how there might be a connection between the two cases? Do you see any?
Well, Mr. Cosby's attorneys apparently see a connection. I'll leave it to them to decide what, and to argue what that connection is.
If the April 7th deposition is sealed, and that means Mr. Cosby's lawyers, Ms. Constant's lawyers back east, can't get their hands on it, what could possibly be brought up in the second deposition that could endanger his criminal case, thereby his lawyers once again trying to appearing to game the system by asking for more and more delays?
Well, I will say that as to the first deposition, it's under a protective order. Neither Ms. Constant's attorneys nor law enforcement and the prosecution in Montgomery County have a copy of Mr. Cosby's deposition that we took in October. No one has a copy of that deposition except that we do, and Mr. Cosby's attorneys have a copy of it. It's under seal, subject of a protective order. They don't have it.
So, can we do just clarification again for you?
And there has been no subpoena for it.
Ms. Allred, just clarification again for what was expected to happen in court today. They were just seeking to further delay his second deposition, is that correct? Just want to fully understand.
They were seeking to postpone his second deposition to an indefinite date.
But it's still, as it stands, April 7th.
But
now.
as it stands, the date that counsel and our firm agreed to, April 7th, which was a date within the previous court order that it had to take place between March 8th and April 8th, still stands. The date has not moved. And what is new is that there will be a hearing date on March 30th to decide whether or not the entire case should be stayed from moving forward. So if it is, then Mr. Cosby's deposition will not go forward on April 7th, nor will another deposition that we scheduled for April 8th with another individual whose deposition we're seeking to take, who shall remain unidentified. But Mr. Cosby's attorneys know who that is. That will not go forward either. However, if the court denies the motion to stay and allows our case to go forward, then we will be able to take Mr. Cosby's deposition on April 7th.
Any statement on how Ms. Huth is doing with all these developments?
She's just trying to live her life, and she's displaying a lot of courage. It's really difficult to get through this, but she has given her deposition in this case, and she understands that we're doing everything that can be done, that should be done to protect her interests, that we're vigorously fighting for her, and she's looking forward to this case moving along so that she can have her day in court. So all she wants is her day in court. And I think she's entitled to that. It's a serious case with the allegation of child sexual abuse, and it should go forward.
Ms. Allred, if there is another attempt to either delay the hearing or the taking of the deposition in a last-minute situation as was attempted here, will you seek sanctions against the attorneys?
Well, we'll have to see. For now, it appears that the March 30th date is on calendar, and that we'll be able to move forward on that date to have the court decide this matter. It is an unusual set of circumstances, but we think we have strong arguments as to why this case should be permitted to move forward. And we'll have to see what the court decides. I mean, what we're alleging is alleged to have happened more than 40 years ago. And I think it's time to have this case decided in a court of law. And the fact that he is being prosecuted on allegations that are alleged to have occurred 2005, 2006, I don't think should prevent us from being able to move forward. But this is a call that the court will have to make. Okay, thank you. And I will say this, I mean, certainly, you know, Mr. Cosby has hired a firm that has 700 lawyers. They have the time to deal with this case, and in addition to deal with the criminal case. So I don't think the time is going to be an issue. But, you know, he is fighting this every inch of the battlefield is an inch that he is fighting for. But we're in it also for the long haul, and we're going to fight for our client.
Can you comment yesterday, Mr. Cosby, or it surfaced that
Beverly?
last week Beverly Johnson.
I don't represent Beverly Johnson, but I do have a great deal of admiration for Beverly Johnson. Mr. Cosby did file a lawsuit against her for allegations that she had made publicly against him. And he did so even though she had indicated that she had forgiven him, and even though she had not filed any lawsuit against him. Reportedly this week, he voluntarily dismissed his lawsuit, but said that he reserved the right to refile it within the statute of limitations, within the time period set by law. We'll have to see whether he does so or not. Only he can indicate why he took that action. He has also sued the 7 accusers in Massachusetts who filed a defamation case against him. As far as I know, that cross-complaint by Mr. Cosby is still pending. That's the case in which Camille Cosby's deposition was recently taken.
Do you think it could be sort of to bolster this argument that he has to focus on one thing, sort of like to make it clear that he can't have all of these different...
Well, I don't know. I mean, is that the argument that he can't walk and chew gum at the same time? I don't know what his argument is, but, you know, the criminal case is moving forward. As I say, he has more than 700 attorneys because he also has other law firms as well. So, I mean, many of these are legal issues. I think that his attorneys are able to focus.
And back when we heard the motion to compel, and then again today, there's talk of mostly what people are expecting that you'll get from the second deposition is his claiming that on the record. Is there anything else you think you could get in the second?
Well, I mean, we'll have to see. We have many questions for Mr. Cosby. And I'll just say, because we can't reveal anything that was said in the first deposition, that we have many questions for Mr. Cosby in the second deposition. His attorneys are well aware of what those questions might be. And our position is he can appear for the second deposition if he seeks to invoke his Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination. He can do so. But he needs to appear in order to do that. And he should appear, and then he can assert whatever privilege he and his attorneys think is appropriate. He has the right to invoke his constitutional rights, and where it's appropriate to do so. So that's the way it is. He certainly would have that right.
Related to what you think he'll invoke that constitutional...
Pardon me? I won't say what he made on what questions. I can't do that because I can't say what those questions are, because much of that, you know, would be under seal. In fact, I would say all of it is. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria.
All right, thank you.